MIDDLEKAUFF! Hey!
Well, I think for the 49ers to win, this guy has been unreal the last 2 weeks. He hasn't thrown a pick. I don't even think he's thrown a pick-worthy play. He has been much closer to the guy that I think best case scenario was going to be why they traded all these picks. He's been a superstar. I mean, that was the biggest throw of his career to Cooper Kupp, and he got destroyed but he was awesome in that game. Like, it wasn't. You could not blame Matt Stafford to me at all for that game, right? It was his running back fumbled. His clearly a center fucked up when after they got, what was it, a pick or they got a fumble? I can't even remember now. But the next play, the center snaps and he's not even looking. Clearly they weren't on the same page. When the Niners have played him and beat him this week or this year, he's thrown 4 interceptions, guy. He threw a pick 6 to Jimmy Ward. He threw another pick, I think, to, I don't know, was it Mosley, the deep bomb in that game to Odell Beckham. Obviously, 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, he threw the game-winning pick for the Niners to Ambry Thomas, and he threw the other pick. And both, to me, there was only one of those throws that's not on him. The Jimmy Ward pick 6 went through Higbee's hands. I can't put that on Matt Stafford. The other 3 were bad plays. They're his version of Jimmy, right? Because Jimmy doesn't make 2 of those. Like, he threw the ball 50, 60 yards down the field. But that is the Stafford pick, right? That's his Jimmy when he throws the bombs. And
which are not usually as damaging, right? Sometimes they're like glorified punts.
I do think in playoff games, any turnover is a devastating play. There is no long, oh, that's just an arm punt. Like, you don't say that in playoff games. You can say that week
Brady
6.
had one we argued about a few years ago. Was that in the Super Bowl? Like a
Did
third
they
down.
Did they win it or lose it?
Won it. Maybe they lost it, actually.
If you win, not devastating. If you lose, there's no turnover.
Yeah.
That's a good
turnover. There is, even your arm picks is a momentum the other team celebrates, right?
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
And wouldn't you say the pick, now the Niners didn't turn it into points. I'll tell you, being in that stadium, that pick that Mosley had, that Tart could have had too, the place erupted. Partly because we didn't see live the feet click. So you're like, he ran it back to like the 30-yard line. You're like, they're going to run it in. It's going to be 24-17. But the what was it? The cleats clicked.
Was it Cooper?
No, I think it was Van Jefferson or might have been Higbee.
Okay.
Yeah, it was. That was a big play that they didn't move it. But you got to pick this guy. If you pick this guy off, if you're not going to pick him off, if I tell you right now, Matt Stafford does not throw an interception or turn the ball over, that's huge advantage Rams, because we know the other guy. Like, it's just you got to acknowledge it. You just hope for one, but he's turning the ball over.
I think a lot of his turnover-worthy plays are coming under pressure, and so my number one key is not going to be Jimmy, don't turn the ball over. I love your key, by the way. So I'll react to your key first. I think you can win
right now in your gut. Do you think we're more likely to get the Stafford we've seen in the playoffs, who's been Pro Bowl Stafford, or the shaky version you've seen versus the Niners?
Well, I think the first version that was really shaky is out. He was trying to force the ball to Odell early in the game. Remember that early interception?
I
thought it was more of a function of Odell just joining the team. I think the last version
wasn't that was his first game with the Niners
game,
too.
Yeah. I do think there's something to D'Amico and that defense being better than sometimes we think they should be, and being good against specific teams and specific players. So yeah, I don't think you're getting like shaky Matt. I think Matthew has proven something the last couple of weeks, and I think it's probably given him some confidence. And I also think he's got to be, and they will be more prepared for adverse crowd noise situations than they were the last game. I think that had to be a big part of why they were so rattled, right? It's just, A, you're pissed because you weren't prepared for the crowd. B, you just can't fundamentally communicate. So I think he'll be better than that, but I do think it's likely that the Niners pick him off.
They were up 17-0.
I know. No, I know. You're right.
And I would say early in that game, some of his throws to Kupp. Remember how good he was on some of those 3rd and longs? The touchdown he threw to Higbee in the corner of the end zone. Oh. You're right. He looked like a different human being that first half. But the second half, he resorted back to like Detroit early season not even early season. Remember, he had been struggling. The previous week, we had gambled on them. He had thrown a pick 6 against the Ravens. So he has just at any moment he can resort back, right? Where Brady and Rodgers are just in control of their domain. Sometimes it's like he can just shift fast, and it might just be a throw now. It's not a game. I would not expect a bad game from him. But you got to hope, and the defense can dictate it. Can you dictate that play or two out of him, like deep in his loins, you know,
in his soul?
Because they didn't really do it against Rodgers. He just couldn't overcome them, but they couldn't fuck with him really, right? In terms of like make him throw it to a player. Where I think you can do that with he didn't get close to throwing a pick. Can Matt Stafford throw it to Jimmy Ward?
No, but they did create some issues with their pressure in that game, and I think that's how they have to do it again with Matthew. I thought my key last week against the Packers was Niners' third down offense. They had been over, I think, 56% in the 2 previous weeks. They had been under 40% going into the Rams game. And then they were really good against the Rams, and they were really good against the Cowboys. They weren't very good last week on third downs, 4 of 11. No. But Green Bay wasn't great on third down either, right? They were 5 of 12. Armstead had those big back-to-back sacks on third down late. And, I think the Niners left the door open, and the Packers weren't really able to walk through. I think we saw the first meeting with the Rams. When you leave the door open for them, they have the ability to walk through it. And I do think the Niners benefited from that Green Bay game being in the snow. If that game had been in Santa Clara, it might have actually been worse for the 49ers. I think for me, the number one thing is how is Trent Williams? And, can he really play? Can he really play? Not just can he play, but can he really protect and be an all-pro level best offensive lineman in the league, Trent Williams? Because I think Jimmy's frenetic moments come under pressure. As we've talked about, Garoppolo does not. Now, don't get me wrong. He'll just first read high ball too. I'm not saying that's all of it.
Yeah.
But he doesn't throw the ball away. And he tries to make plays off script. And some of that happens when the pocket starts moving around him. We see it. Like we saw it the first game against the Rams.
Yeah, when he doesn't even throw it into people's feet like every quarterback does.
He did once last week after I'd said he doesn't ever do it. He did it one time, but he doesn't do it.
Never throws to like just the trainer like this on the sideline, just the easy one.
Ever. I think protecting him to me is the number one, because I think if you protect him, it means that he can settle and make the right play and has time to not do the roll out, throw on the run. It's just not where he thrives. And in this game, I think you'll be able to get to Stafford a little bit, but I think if they get into a lot, there's a quarterback fumble involved, just like there was the last time. They've got Von Miller humming. They've got obviously Aaron Donald. So I think protecting Garoppolo is, and the other thing that happens is, sacks is where even if you've got a home field in terms of a crowd, you start sacking the quarterback, and now you're in a 3rd and 15, and now your crowd is a little on its heels, and now you are. Remember the interception he threw in the red zone came after a penalty, right?
Who? Jimmy's?
Jimmy's, yeah. It came out. They got moved. They got bumped back. They were in the red. There was a red zone penalty. So I think it's a combination of protecting.
Weren't they at like the 5-yard line, and then Trent held?
It was it was after the Elijah Mitchell run. So yeah. I think it's a combination of like not being in those situations from penalties and not being in those situations from sacks.
No, I like that. To me, one other one is Cooper Kupp's a star. I mean, he's proven it now. Obviously, that Niner game, but the last 2 weeks, like there's no disputing, right? It gets made fun of. I think a huge part of it is because he's a white guy. But like we're at the point now where every single human, like he's a baller.
I mean, he's the number one receiver in the league. Sorry, did you say that part?
I didn't. I mean, yeah, statistical for sure. Yeah. And he's, to me, he's clearly a top 3 or 4 wide receiver in the league. And Deebo Samuel's well established, right? He's a superstar, and he's kicked the Rams' ass. Let's just say those two, in some form or fashion, kind of cancel each other out. To me, who's your number 2 playmaker? Like, I didn't think the Rams, when the Niners played him a couple weeks ago, Higbee, but Higbee's not going to get you 120 yards. Odell the last couple weeks has scared me a little. It's like, we've seen a little life in the guy. Like, he's just kind of flying around. And Akers, I thought, looked excellent against the Cardinals, coming, almost 6 months, whatever recovery. It was like kind of Crabtree style. I remember nothing like a guy tearing his Achilles in OTAs. And then all of a sudden, about like Halloween, people were like, there is buzz. Yeah. He's coming back. And I think most of the time we're like, okay, we'll believe it when we see it. But every once in a while it happens. And it happened with this kid. But then the next game, he almost lost them the game. Like if they would have gone to overtime and Brady would have won the toss and they would have lost, Cam Akers would have been their negative GOAT. But to me, like, can they get a number 2 guy? Because I know for a fact the Niners, you could argue that Jawan Jennings was kind of that number 2 guy the last game, right? He had a touchdown. He had several huge plays. Kittle at any moment can give you 6 for 80 and a touchdown. In that first game, it was kind of a risky throw, but maybe they had worked on it in practice. Jimmy threw it high to Kittle for that first touchdown, and Kittle went up kind of in traffic. It's not like he was wide open. It was like, Jimmy. But to me, who is your second banana? The Niners have better true second bananas, but part of it is like, is Jimmy hitting them? We know Kyle's going to have some plays schemed up. The other thing, here's what I know. The Rams, just because Stafford's such a good player, if he's in his zone, they're just running plays and they're working. I'm not saying that they don't have specific scheme plays. They clearly did in the game against the Niners week 18, right? In the end zone, they ran that touchdown to Kupp scheme play. They had that one on the zero blitz. They had Kupp going right up the sideline. That was a scheme play from Stafford on a pressure. But the Niners consistently have of our 30 passes a day, 10 of them, we know against this defense, this guy's going to be open. And I would say Jimmy's completion percentage on those, not high. Whatever his completion percentages of the season, let's say it's 63, feels like that is 38.
Well, do you notice, you and I have watched a lot of Bengals.
And honestly, the last game, the Kittle, he dropped it. So maybe it's not always his fault. But
he made up for it. It was an even exchange with Kittle's next catch.
Do you agree that the wide open play that Kyle clearly has dialed up against a specific look, they don't hit at a high rate?
Was it the Rams game where he missed Juszczyk, or was it the Texans game?
I feel like that might have been the Colts game.
Was it that long ago? Yeah, maybe it was that long ago.
Honestly, guy could have been. They've missed Juszczyk on some wide open, probably 3 or 4
You and I
times.
have watched a lot of Bengals, especially lately. Jamar Chase ends up wide ass open a lot, and they hit him every time.
It was the Titans. It was the Titans Thursday night game.
Yes. Thank you, Ali.
And that was bad.
Yeah.
I mean, they get guys like. And listen, the Lazard play that went viral, it's the NFL. That happens, some blown assignments. I think specifically for the Niners, they have schemed plays for Juszczyk and Kittle that are like, hey, motherfucker, hey.
Yeah, the Lazard play was a mental it was not a physical mistake, right?
Yeah.
Jimmy throws it to the right person in those.
But was he open because the defense did no one follow him? Was that it? I haven't even seen the play, to be honest with you. Did no one follow Lazard?
Yeah, I don't know. He got open.
Who cares?
It's beside the point. But it was also, I think it's really easy. He should have thrown it to him right there. Well, yeah, he's already beginning to make the other. He's about to make anyway. But I think what we're talking about.
Ayuk Dallas is a good example. It happens. They miss that play a lot.
Yeah.
Rodgers doesn't. That's where the Niners got lucky, right? Rodgers usually doesn't miss that play.
He had a miss, and he had the drop by the tight end over the middle as well in the game, right?
And they hit the play. Aaron Jones kind of had to stop. If he leads them, does he score 80 yards? I don't know, but he kind of had to slow down, and then he took off, and the defense.
He took he tried to cut it back, right?
Yeah.
Well, I think this goes to part of. I saw this in the Ringer today as everyone's debating Jimmy, and this is part of this conversation that we're having. Of the 35 quarterbacks who have at least 200 dropbacks in 2021, Garoppolo ranked 32nd in PFF's big-time throw rate, a stat that tracks passes on the highest end of both difficulty and value. Meanwhile, he's second highest in turnover-worthy play rate. That right there, to me, is the center of all. There's all the Jimmy discussions. We've been having them for months. Other people have been having them for months. They're having them on an even more national frequent scale now. The center of the whole Garoppolo conversation is that right there. The center. It's why I don't think he'll be back. That's the center of it. You can take risk if it's also worth reward. But Garoppolo, for the most part, he can be high reward, but he does not get you those big play rewards, but does create some risk, right? It's almost like he's I don't want to call him low assist because that's not what it is. He does, I think, a very good job with some other specific things. But I'll keep saying it the way I've been saying it for people that are maybe new. The Niners don't hit threes very often. They have to run. They're like Pete Carroll running the Princeton offense, like backdoor cuts, and you gotta get a good screen. You know, Kyle's constantly probably talking about strong screens, strong base. There's a lot of that. And that to me is the middle of the whole thing, which is fine. Like they are in this game right now, John. They are 1 win away from the Super Bowl. But that's the center of the whole thing. And that's where Stafford is different.
Yeah. I don't think the Sacramento Kings right now are running that offense anymore. I don't know if you've seen their statistics, but they're losing every game by like 40 points.
No, I have not seen their statistics. I've seen the reactions to their quotes and statistics, and it's the same thing that's been happening for, I guess, like 18 years now.
They are losing by like 50 points now.
Are they really?
They lost by 53 the other night, and then by, I think, 35 last night. So,
I've forbidden my dad from talking about the Kings when I talk to him on the phone, so
I'm
not getting my updates.
I mean,
like usual.
I do think with Jimmy, you know, you can't depend on a 3-touchdown game because those never happen. Can he just avoid? He hasn't really thrown that many pick. Has he thrown a pick six? I can't really think of it. Luckily, a lot of his touchdowns come. You're able to tackle the guy, which helps a lot. But you throw enough of these balls, you're bound to throw a pick six. Like that would be crippling. That would be really crippling.
Yeah.
And there is an element like, you know, I've heard this sometimes on like basketball podcasts. I guess, you know, one of the analytical movements is expected shot make. Like what's the percentage when you take a shot from this area? If you just did league wide, how often it goes in. And sometimes like you're below the league rate means there's a little unluckiness to you, right? Like you're missing 10% of the shots that the league is making from the same spot. You're like, you just keep doing it. You'll get back to, you know, kind of the medium number. You throw enough of these balls in harm's way, you're bound to have a disaster happening.
Right, like one game where 3 of them get caught.
3 of them get caught, and even a couple over the middle, like the guy scores. You know, like it's not. If I told you, is Jimmy capable of throwing a game where he throws 3 picks and 2 of them go for touchdowns? You would say yes, right? And that says all you need to know. We made fun of when that stat kind of first took off with PFF, the interceptable
turnover-worthy throws.
Yeah, turnover-worthy plays. And the more you watch football, you're like, that is a real stat. And part of it is you watch Jimmy long enough. He has a ton of these. And he has avoided, for his 12 interceptions, it's people have been saying this forever. Like, he only threw 7 picks, but he easily could have thrown 15. Like, there is no debate. Jimmy could have 28 picks this year.
Not throwing outside of the numbers probably limits some of the most damaging types of interceptions you can throw, right?
Yes. Because his best pass is like the quick slant over the middle, right?
Which also can be intercepted, tips and overthrows, but it's usually in a little more traffic. That's a city pick as opposed to some country picks.
But I mean, what about the pick week 18 when he kind of forced it to Kittle and is a little high, and then it just kind of got tipped, and then Jalen Ramsey went, hacky sack, and then he just caught it.
Yeah. The good news is they had to go 100 yards on that one. So
the best news is he kind of came out of the end zone and like Kittle just tackled him like the 10. They did go. They scored on that drive.
I know.
Because back to what I was saying, Matt Stafford hit some incredible throws on that play.
Yeah.
On the next couple plays.
That was the drive where he hit
Cup over Jimmy.
Twice.
Ward. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, I love all this.
What would you guess wins this game?
How many points?
28?
Yeah, I was going to say 27.
If I told you the Niners scored 23, would you feel good?
I mean, they have not. I think I saw the stat. They've given like 4 touchdowns the last 3 weeks.
Yeah, when I said it out loud, and then I started thinking about their defense. Their defense, the second half of that McVay game, the last 2 weeks has been excellent. Now, I'd say this: last week's a little skewed because of the weather, but that's the game they played.
Yeah,
like, most games are 13-10, right?
I wouldn't feel great if you told me they scored 23 points. I wouldn't feel great.
Yeah,
because it means
if I told you
touchdowns.
If I told you the Rams scored 23 points, you'd feel pretty good, right?
Yes, about the Niners. Yeah, I mean, if they score 23, what does that look like? 2 touchdowns,
3 Robbie Gould field goals. Is that a math right? 14 plus 9, 23.
Yeah. You wouldn't. I mean,
I think
honestly,
you'd have a chance. I don't think you.
You would, and you know why? You're right. You just nailed it. Breaking down what it would be actually clarifies it, which is
then there are drives.
There are drives, and if you're settling for field goals, it means you're not chasing necessarily, right? By too much, right? If you're down 14, you're not Robbie Gold field goals. You're probably going for it on one of those 4th and shorts or whatever it turns out being. So,
pretty good field goal weekend. You got the McPherson kid, you got Butker and Robbie.
Yeah, and Matt Gay.
Matt Gay.
Yeah.
Has he been good this year?
I think he's been good. I think there was a moment. I could be wrong. I think there was a period where it like wasn't good, but I think it's gotten okay again.
One argument I heard back to the analytical. Oh yeah, he is, huh?
Gay and Wisnowski.
They were they drafted in the same class?
Mm-hmm.
That's a pretty good little battery, huh?
Yeah.
Even though Wisnowski, I feel like he's not that great of a punter. You just eyeballing him. Like it feels like he was more powerful a couple years ago.
Yeah.
I don't know. One of the analytical movements in football. At least from
right. Sorry, one other restart that point in a second. Mike said Gay was short from 45. That's last week. I remember
47.
But still, like there was something weird with the hold. Something must have happened.
It was well short. One, I think like the analytical departments in football, like the true, just like their group of number guys are very anti-drafting kickers. I guess that's been a big movement for numbers. And I've heard a couple people say, like, haven't we seen the last couple weeks? That kind of fucking matters. Like there is, like you get a McPherson. That is a great draft pick. What Butker, now I think he's an undrafted free agent, but like Butker's value to the Chiefs now for the last 5 years, pretty clear if you watch the Chiefs, like Butker, they are very, very confident. Even in that game last week, he missed a extra point or a field goal. I don't think Andy ever flinched, right? Having a good kicker, there is, especially in big games, to me, there is a value that's hard to quantify. And there is not just like having a random kicker. And I think part of it where they would argue is like, paying a guy that's not dependable $4 million when you can get a guy equally as non-dependable at $900,000. Like, obviously it pencils, but having Robbie Gold this year making $5 million has been a big benefit for the 49ers.
Yeah,
I think Butker makes a lot of money. The Raiders kicker, Carlson, I mean, guy was nails. You feel good if you got a $3 or $4 million kicker if he's making all of his kicks. He is more valuable than just flip the coin. Just give me a random kicker.
The hard part is when you draft the guy, he is in the play. He might be in the playoffs right then, ready to roll. You're a rookie. Here you go. All eyes are on you.
Well, the worst case is Aguayo second round, right?
That is a combination of all the worst things, yes. It would have been a bad case if you drafted Aguayo in the 7th round. That would have been bad. But to take him in the second round, terrible.
It's just when he's that bad, he feels like you just drafted a defensive lineman right there, and the guy can't get on the field or something. Like it's even worse.
It's worse because he's a net negative. Like the guy that can't get on the field is just not on the field. But the kicker is like, you need him for extra points. You need him for game-winning field goals. You need him, and it just is such a demoralizer to your.
That was a bad pick. Even though I'm pretty sure when they drafted him out of Florida State, he was historically like the best kicker in the history of the